Hi everyone. So we are live on Facebook right now. So once again, to just say thank you for everybody for joining us right now. And for those who are joining us on Facebook as well, hello. Please do send your comments on our Facebook page and on our chat box as well via Zoom. You're welcome to send us questions and comments on the Facebook. So just to introduce myself, my name is Imamileng Masita and I am from Partners in Sexual Health and I'm the National Youth Coordinator for the Siagwazi Youth Network, so which is an initiative by Partners in Sexual Health. So if you'd like to learn more about our organization and what we do and so on in details, please do visit our website as well, so you can have a look at www.partnersinsexualhealth.co.za, or you can go to siakwaziyouth.network.net and then you'll find us there. Yes, welcome everybody. So we are celebrating the International Day of the Girl Child, which is normally celebrated on the 11th of October every year. So this was on the weekend, but today we're celebrating it with you guys and with our best speakers that we've selected to join us today and share what exactly is the International Day of the Girl Child all about and why we specifically chose to speak under Women in Leadership and the theme of 2020, which is our voice, our future. So welcome everybody once again, and please don't forget that we're live on Facebook. If you want to tweet the event as well, you can go to your Twitter and just search for Siakwazi Youth Network. You'll find us there, and then you can tweet everything that's happening. And also you can find us on Instagram as well, where you can also tag us, tag our speakers as well. So welcome everybody. Yeah, Tandeka will take you through the speakers and the rest of the day, and we will be working hand in hand together. So welcome everybody. Tandeka.
Hello everybody, my name is Tandeka Bean and I work alongside Imamileng. I am PSH's Research and Advocacy Officer. So today we have 4 amazing women lined up to speak to us about women in leadership and to help foster an intergenerational conversation on gender equality within the workplace, linking our sexual and reproductive health and rights. So Ima, could you please open up the share screen function? I will upload all of our speakers' pictures and I will start by reading everybody's bios.
Okay, one moment. So for those who are new as well, once again, to talk you through about the International Day of the Girl Child, we are super honored to have everybody coming in to join us today, including the speakers. So today, it's all about an intergenerational conversation on leadership and inspiration. So we would really like this to be a very engaging conversation with our speakers. Christy Miller, Patty Delora, Kanye Saboy, and Sanelisiwe Balfo. So we will be happy if you can ask them questions as well. So you can send the questions via Facebook comments, or you can send the questions on our chat box via Zoom. And there is also an option to also do that on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram as well. So welcome everybody once again. And Utandeka is going to take you through our first speaker, Ukanye Saboy. Katie.
So, sorry, can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes we can.
Okay, so I would like to introduce our first speaker, Kanisa Boy. Kanisa is the founder of and campaign manager at the social enterprise Matriarch and Sons. Their focus is health communications, understanding the intersection between human rights and community development, with a special focus on sexual and reproductive justice. This includes gendered violence and domestic violence. Kanisa is the editor on the new sexual and reproductive health digital magazine called Eve's Apple, The Mag. She is a pro-choice, anti-period poverty, patriarchy fighting, coffee loving, and a mother of two. In 2014, Kanisa was the Mail and Guardian 200 Young South Africans nominee. Thank you, Kanisa, for joining us today. Please take the floor. Kanisa, please unmute your mic. We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I really am honored to be part of a space that speaks to the future, really, and also just taking stock of what it looks like to be in my generation and previously. And I'd like to start this talk, I suppose, with an anecdotal story. I was born in 1982. I was born in the Transkei. If any of you know what the Transkei is, it's now parts of the Eastern Cape, right? And so in this hospital where my mother birthed me, on the day, I was born early hours of the 26th of October, and in the state, in the Transkei, it was Independence Day. So my mom births me early hours of the morning around 1 or 2. My dad was a soldier, so later in that morning, he came to pick her up to drop us off at home, I presume. Because it's a soldier and it's Independence Day, they also had an Independence Day march. So essentially, it was a scurry. So she came to pick us up so that he can rush off to the march. So what happens then is that my mom changes, he arrives, then they wait for the nurses to bring the baby. So they bring the baby. And my mother looks at this baby and she goes, but this is not my baby. And the nurses were like, sis, you gave birth early hours of this morning. Clearly, you're still not with it. This is your child. My mother insists that, okay, wait. The only thing I can tell you is that my child did not have hair. This baby has a head full of hair. And the conversation went on for a while until my father stepped in, because he wasn't there when she was birthing. And my father says, this woman would know who her child is. Clearly, she's not a child. Go look for the child. After moments of waiting, then the child, this child, came, all bald, and with the tag, my mother's name tagged on my arm. And for me, the story is a story of a lot of things that women have to go through to get the things that they want. It's a story of how systemically women are generally just not heard when they are certain about the things that they want. It's a story of women having to push constantly for the things that they want. And it's also a story about how the male voice is necessary, particularly when it understands its own privilege. And so I feel like even though my mother's still very shook about the story, because she's like, yo, what if I took the wrong baby for real? You know, what would life be like? But for me, I feel like it tells a story truly about how generation to generation, women generally just need to be pushing and complaining and requesting and saying exactly what it is that they need, even though the system may not be able to hear them. And I say the system, but really, systems are made out of people who are conditioned to think about specific things in specific ways. So I'm going to get right into the talk. I had sent rather late, Tandeka, I had sent you this, but it's rather late, so I'll read because I was going to speak to the presentation anyway. So let's define sexual and reproductive health, right? According to UNFPA, good sexual and reproductive health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being in all matters relating to the reproductive system. It implies that people are able to have satisfying and safe sex, their capability to reproduce, and their freedom to decide if and when and how often they would like to do so, right? So then you have a choice of whether or not you want to reproduce. When, if you do want to reproduce, you would reproduce, and with whom you reproduce. So it seems simple enough, right? The definition itself seems simple enough. So what's the holdup? What's the problem? Why are we having this conversation, particularly when it comes to sexual and reproductive health? We are having this conversation because gender inequality and discrimination against girls and ultimately women means they are stripped of the right to make their own choices. And here I think we miss the link between dignity, which we speak about a lot when we speak about the Constitution. We miss the link between dignity and choice, because there is a lot of dignity in being able to make a choice about what it is that you want to do, right? And then the stumbling block continues as the decision to choose my sexuality, because girls and women are not a homogenous group. Like it's not necessarily the same issues that they experience. It's not the same limitations that they experience. You know, being a girl who before birth, once you are born, you are defined. You're a girl, you're going to go to school, you're going to, out of school, you're going to work, you're going to become someone's wife, you're going to become someone's mother, you're already someone's daughter. So there's a determination almost even before you open your mouth of what your life is going to be. And it's generally outside of yourself. And once you say, actually, sure, I look like a girl, but in terms of sexuality, I'm choosing something different. Already, you are then stripped of that freedom. You have stripped of choice. Then you are othered. And so suddenly you are sidelined for the choice that you make, or at least for the identity that you know to be true for yourself. And then the choice of what happens to your body is another layer. You know, you must, if you're pregnant, you must birth. If you don't want pregnancy to be pregnant and you want a contraceptive, how dare you have sex? If you have sex for pleasure, how dare you enjoy sex? Because sex is generally not something that is for girls and women. So these layers then cause women to not be able to make choices that proudly or even stamp their choices clearly, because of the fact that the layers of what they choose that is outside of what is expected of them when they arrived on earth then becomes problematic. And then the other problem is the choice of having children. Do I even want children? Then it's like, but why would you not want children? You know, the expectation that you will become a mother is there. And then and also the short changing, right? So there's all this list of things that you must become, but then when it comes to income earning, you are earning far less than your colleagues of a different gender, right? So if I'm a woman and there's a man, he's earning more than me. And we live in a country where, just going to the next point, we live in a country where 37.9% of households are women-headed households. And I think this number is actually, it's testy, but that's what Statistics South Africa tells us, that 37.9% of households in South Africa are women-headed. And it's quite strange then to find that, which is also another fact, that women get paid 30% less than their male counterparts. Now, if you are earning 100 rand, me, I'm going to get 70 rand. And that's just on the grounds of me being a woman. We might be doing exactly the same job, but because I'm a woman, then suddenly I must earn less, right? University of Stellenbosch also find that 30% of learners in South Africa are missing school while on their period. So when I think about the fact that purely on the basis of having a uterus, there are 30% of girls who do not go, who miss school. And in some instances, girls stop going to school because it's a monthly thing. And at some point, a person just goes, you know what, like, I'm missing like 7 days every month. I'm getting a lot of slack from my teachers. I'm just going to stop and I'm going to go find work. And in the world of work, she's going to earn 30% less than whoever her colleagues are. And in a country that is primarily women-headed, and I'm saying primarily because I find that there's also child-headed households, which you find that it's children who are heading these households. There's also elderly-headed households. You find that it's older women who are heading these households. So for me, I find that in terms of the odds that are stacked, the odds are really, really, really stacked against girl, children, and women. And then we also struggle to get, let me actually, I'll get to this one a bit later. And then in that whole debacle of struggling to actually get an education because of a natural monthly occurrence, you then are exposed to 1 in 9 women or girls likely in their lifetime to experience sexual violence, 1 in 3 likely to experience intimate partner violence. And we can go into it and speak about how the violence itself, even sometimes when it's not physical violence, it's limiting financial violence, where a person is not able to go to school because if they don't perform a certain sexual favor or they don't behave in a particular way, they get limited in terms of work. There's harassment at work. There's sexual violence in workplaces that cause women to either quit or to either quit or stay stagnant in their positions and not be able to earn more than they probably would had they been growing in terms of promotion. And so these experiences hinder the growth of women and also devalue women, because once as a child you are able to see that, you know what, my mother has been working for 20 years and my mother in the work that she's not growing. My mother's gotten her education, so what's the point, right? So you see quite early on that perhaps there's not much for me to do. You kind of lose motivation to do more with your life because you can see people before you that they are struggling so much and there's no necessary systemic response to those struggles. And then we go to women struggling to get sexual and reproductive health services. And here people think, oh, well, we're just talking about contraceptive. No, we're talking about simple education on bodily efficacy. How easy is it to access information that is not stigmatized? That doesn't say that if you learn about sexuality, if you learn sexuality education, then you are being sexual. Then you clearly want to start having sex. Where do people go when they want to have real contraceptive counseling that takes into account how their body functions, maybe even standing chronic illnesses, which then affirms the choice not to conceive at this time, right? And when they do get that counseling, it's not necessary counseling. It's like, well, this is what's available, so you get what you're given. So I'll give a simple example. I'm a mother to 2 boys. After I had given birth to the my second born, at the age of 32, I then said, you know, I'm done with this birthing story. I would like to get a tubal ligation. And fortunately for me, I had gone in for a C-section, so it would have been a thing that they do there in the middle of all of the madness that they do. And then I was told I was too young, and I was told that I was unmarried, and therefore I couldn't have a tubal ligation because what if I want to have another child? So the choice I had made for myself as a grown-up was then canceled out by a bunch of doctors and nurses who decided that I'm too young. So they infantilize you. They make you feel like, umdana. So how dare you decide that you are done giving birth when you could meet another man or you could meet someone else who might want to have children with you, regardless of whether or not you want to. And you imagine a scenario of a 15-year-old who's decided that, you know what, I'd rather have because I've started being sexually active, I'd rather have a long-acting contraceptive to ensure that there's no pregnancy for the next 5 years, because that's a choice for myself. You can imagine a scenario when that choice has been made by this person about their body, and how in the health system they get told, what business do you have sex in the first place? And they don't have any appreciation of the kind of environment that younger people are growing in. And then we talk about also the institutionalized stigma, where the women who choose to not have children, and they are referred to for abortion services in places where they already know there's a long waiting list and that service is not going to be received. We talk about women and young girls who get chronic care because, oh, you shouldn't be giving birth in the first place. Oh, your behavior is how you got here. And no appreciation of the people. We're at time. I'll keep it short. And so when the eggs, the odds are stacked against you, what do you do? So for you, I'm saying this quite broadly, and I understand that our contexts are different. And so when I speak about these things, I need you to understand that this may not apply to your life. And that doesn't mean there's something wrong with the way that you think about things. It just simply means that your context is different. I'm only really giving you what I think from my vantage point and what I have experienced. All right. And the first thing is to live on purpose, you know, and this is not necessarily about finding your life's purpose more than it is about doing what you need to do, particularly because you understand the odds are stacked against you intentionally, right? So you be intentional. And the second one is get used to making choices. I find a lot of the time that as women, we surrender our right to choosing because of the fact that for the most part, choices have been made for us already. So for example, what are you going to study? Which school are you going to go to if you've got the opportunity? Do you think that you should be volunteering? What contraceptive do you think will work for you? When the guidance has been given, what contraceptive do you want to use? Do you want to have children? And if you do, how many children do you want to have? Understanding the climate of the country. What kind of partner do you want to have? What kind of work do you want to go into? Do you want to go into careering, which is then when you kind of map up with the path of the work that you want to do, or do you want to go into vocational work where your passion is? So getting used to making choices, and because upila ngamabom, so you're living intentionally, the steps that you're taking become intentional, notwithstanding and not ignoring your circumstances, because I understand that there's always a pushback when it comes to circumstances. And then demanding services. I think in part why this collective is such a great collective in terms of conversation is because it speaks to advocacy, speaking about what it is that we need and collecting our voices so that our voices are louder when they speak to power, I think is really, really critical. Because when we speak about a grouping in, for example, I say in Town, that's not able to access contraceptives at 7 a.m. in the morning before they go to school. If one person says it, it's one thing. But if we're all collected, then it becomes a louder voice. And also complaining. Guys, one of the biggest issues we've got in this country is that we speak about amongst each other, we complain amongst each other about services, about inaction. But once we, again, collectively put our complaints in one place, then it becomes a real issue that is visible. And then in terms of the system, and I say the system, but it's also us, it's understanding that the development of women is a justice issue, and that the continued ignoring of the girl children and sidelining them is a big issue. Thank you very much, Thandeka.
Thank you very much for that. I think you're entirely right. There is dignity in choice We are not a homogenous group, and that we do need to set our own path. Thank you very much. For anybody who has questions, please post them in the chat. We will answer them once all our speakers are finished. Next up, we have Patricia Delora of PSH. So Mrs. Patricia Delora is the founder and chief executive officer of Partners in Sexual Health. Affectionately known as Patsy, she is a woman of multiple talents, pursuits, and ambitions. However, her greatest expertise exists around the world of sexual and reproductive health. She draws her comfort from young people and an inspiration of being around these young people. In 2009, Mrs. Patsy Delora founded Partners in Sexual Health, and today it boasts 6 operational offices around South Africa. Patsy's ultimate goal for Partners in Sexual Health is to provide comprehensive and integrated services to all South Africans with a focus on youth. Hence, PSH's flagship campaign is called Everything Starts at Home. It is no wonder that her mentor, the late Dr. John Frankish, called her the strategist extraordinaire. Mrs. Patsy Delora, welcome and thank you. Please take the stage.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining this webinar. It's actually quite a great pleasure for me to engage with the panel and with young people. The whole concept of today is about leadership. And I think as a woman's leader in our own rights and what we try to achieve within the world, within your own vision, it comes with challenges just by being a woman. And I think celebrating the Girl Child's Day, it's important that we, at the end of the day, try to support and mentor our young people to understand, and for them to understand that if you are committed to the cause and if you think that this is what you believe and this is what you can achieve, let nobody hold you back. And this is where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a suburb in Cape Town called Ravensmead. Never in my wildest dreams, I thought that I will one day become a founder and a CEO of a national organization that's now currently moving into the regional space, in the SEDEC space. Never in my wildest dreams. And it comes with a lot of challenges. It comes with people not sometimes believing in you, because who are you? The normal girl went to the normal schools, not having all these type of privileges. Yes, you studied, you've tried, but I've always maintained, I've always said that if you have sometimes a passion in life, do not be discarded or disregarded by other people by not following your dreams. So when I studied at the university and finished a technicon, doing my studies, my life journey evolved around young people. I've always had a passion for young people. I've started, my first professional occupation was environmental health officer. And even when I was the environmental health officer in the Eastern Cape, I used to have meetings within my space where I used to live, to call young girls in just to talk about general things, talk about SRHR things. We had a case, for instance, in the Eastern Cape where young women tend to get on the trains. So there was an intersection where the trains coming from East London, going to Johannesburg, and the train coming from Johannesburg via back. So the intersection was in Sprangfontein. So what these young girls used to do, they used to get on the train and then have sexual intercourse or favors, or doing favors for the men on the train. And on Sprangfontein, they get off the train and then get back on the train back to where they stay. So after a while, I've got very much involved. There's so much so that it actually stopped. And that is where my passion started in terms of young people, mentoring young people, assisting people, because ultimately what I've experienced in my lifetime now is that young people only actually just need mentorship. And they need some face or guidance to support them and to encourage them that they are willing and they are able to become somebody in life, irrespective of what position or whatever you think you can achieve or what you want to achieve. It is absolutely possible. So I've started then coming back. I went to work for the Cancer Association. So my life journey is very interesting because today whatever I've learned in my past previous positions, it got me where I am today, so that my information is actually built up in a very much broad space of knowledge when it comes to SRHR, because I did research in cancer, and I focus on reproductive cancers. I was instrumental in being privileged to be part of establishing the first population-based cancer registry in South Africa with the Medical Research Council. Unfortunately, because cancer is not a notifiable disease, there came with challenges. So funding end. And then my life journey went on. Then I got a job where I went to work for the Global Fund. And with the Global Fund, I was in charge of the peer education within the Western Cape schools. Once again, dealing with young people, dealing with youth organizations. It's strengthening my capabilities in terms of SRHR and all this background and where you come from in life. After a while, you realize that there's a reason why you had to go through all these challenges or stages, because ultimately this adds up to who you are and the contribution and knowledge it gives you within your space of what you want to achieve. So in 2009, I've decided to start Partners in Sexual Health. And believe me, people didn't think for one single second I can pull this off. I'm a very happy chappy, so I love to laugh. I can be extremely silly. So for my friends, my husband, whoever is in my life, they never thought I can pull this off. And Lord and behold, I did. But it came with a lot of challenges. It came within our space of the NGO world, whereby we are so used to that men are the CEO. Men are in charge. So even if you have to go and you present your case and there is a male counterpart sitting next to you within a meeting, people tend to take more note of the male, what the male are saying, than what we as women are saying. So it was a challenge for me specifically, to push that agenda. And to become bold in my own space, for people to understand that I'm here to stay. And yes, so you get your challenges, you get your way where you have to work extra hard almost. As a woman, you have to work extra hard for people to understand that you have the ability to achieve what you meant out to achieve. So in the beginning with PSH, we started with one single project. I was privileged that we got funding for one project. And as time evolved, we're 11 years old now. And as time evolved, it grew and it grew with all the different projects that we added. And the projects wasn't founding out of the sky. It was based on our engagement with the young people on the ground. And then you see the needs. Then you realize, wow, we need to do this, because nobody's addressing certain issues within the certain space of SRHR, specifically where I'm coming from. Up until now, 11 years later, PSH have about 16 different projects that we are implementing, and not just in South Africa, in the SADC region as well. I'm very privileged as a leader in my own right in terms of SRHR, that I could contribute to policies within South Africa from my knowledge, specifically when it comes to young people. I'm a very determined fighter when it comes to the youth rights of our young people. I stand my ground, and I think as to share this with young people, for them to understand that, as I said in the beginning, do not stand aside. If you think that you are right and you do the right things for the right reasons, let nobody deter you for what you want to achieve. And I think the ultimate thing is that what do we, within the NGO sector, I know other panels, our panelists is coming from a different background, but specifically within the NGO sector, your work needs to be driven by passion. It's not about the money. If you are passionate about something, I think ultimately you can achieve it all. And the biggest message I would like to share with people is that stay true to yourself. I think that is a recipe that nobody can deny. If you stay true to to your passion, if you stay true to your cause, if you stay true to your people that you want to serve, I think there is no boundaries of what you can actually achieve in life. I look at myself sometimes, ask my staff, nobody will ever, sometimes when they get there, I will be in a jean and people wouldn't even think I'm the founder and CEO. And I don't make people sometimes believe that this is it, because it's important that you need to be grounded to specific to your staff, and to be real and to have an ear. And I think I can with all fairness say and publicly say that I think there's no staff member that knows that I'm not a listener. And to listen to your staff, and sometimes we have a needs, because we're all just normal individuals. Tandy introduced and say one of our flagship programs is called Everything Starts at Home. I do believe that everything starts at home. We as parents, we as colleagues, we as friends, everything what you do actually comes from your house. And I will always say sometimes that if you come to work, you're in your workspace, within our office, we try to make it as friendly and as possible, because 99% of the time you're spending your time at work. So people must be happy to come to PSH, because the environment that we create within the organization is of such a nature that people are happy and enjoyable. So if you come one day to our office, you will see how people are laughing and joking and whatever, because that's the type of environment you need to create for people, specifically people like us, that serves the people within the community, and not thinking always about the money, because as I said, it's not about the money. It's a process that you have to take through your life, and you need to make certain that if this is what you want to achieve ultimately, then do so. So yes, as from a leader within my own right and space in SRHR in South Africa, in Africa, and also at the broader scale, because I do attend quite a lot of different meetings across the world. The ultimate message I want to say is that just believe in yourself. Get a mentor, by the way. Get a mentor. It's important for you to get a mentor. If you want to achieve something, you need somebody to mentor you, which I did from day one. I got myself a mentor, and this person guided me, because you cannot know it all. You cannot know it all. So this person guided me, supported me, give me directions in the right directions and stuff like that. And yes, I'm privileged there. So yes, if you want to achieve something, and specifically, and think big, by the way, think big. There's nothing wrong by thinking big. Think big, because if you're going to limit yourself, you will never achieve your ultimate goal. My father's words used to say that if you want to do something, set your parameters very high, because ultimately, at least you will achieve something if it doesn't reach the sky. So yes, I think from my side, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity for me to share to the young people, specifically to say that, yeah, don't let people stand in your way and achieve your ultimate goals and dreams. Just do it. If you need support, pick up the phone, get yourself a mentor. If you don't have somebody, pick up the phone me. I will support in whatever way I can. But yes, we as women are here to stay, and I think we have a big role to play in our societies when it comes to a lot of issues that's happening with our young women, specifically currently in South Africa. I mean, look at gender-based violence. It's a massive issue. This COVID-19, these young people are going through tremendous mental health, depression, like you never will know. We've talked to Lifeline the other day. They said the hotlines have increased by 8,000 per week of people looking for support. So the need out there is massive. And yeah, so once again, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Patsy, for that insightful talk. I mean, in the words of Patsy Delora, don't stand by, be bold, and overcome everything that you can. Being a woman doesn't hold you back. In fact, it's one of your superpowers. So thank you, Patsy. Thank you very much for that.
Pleasure.
Next up, I would like to introduce our third speaker, Christina Miller. Christina completed her BSOC Sci in Organizational and Clinical Psychology in 2006 and her Master's in Labor Law in 2011. Both were completed at UCT. In 2014, Chris was selected as one of the 22 DA Young Leaders in South Africa out of hundreds of nominations. That very same year, she launched the Great Girls Trust. Great Girls was born out of Chris's recognition of the need to create change in the lives of teenage girls from disadvantaged areas. While pursuing her career in occupational health and safety, Christina drew on business and social networks to garner support for her idea. It became immediately apparent that people and organizations resonated with her vision, and the program grew exponentially. Today, 7 years on, Great Girls is a highly successful non-profit work organization that works with girls from Lavender Hill and Belhar. With an ever-growing alumni community, established volunteer team, and a committed lawyer donor base. Chris's passion lies in improvement. She sees every situation in life as holding an opportunity and having the potential for improvement. At her core, she believes in every person's capacity to do good and to help others, and thrive on the fact that both her and her charity work enable her to improve the lives of others on a daily basis. She has managed to make her passion into her profession, and today we get to hear more about it. Thank you, Christina. Please take the floor.
Thank you, Thandeka. I just want to confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Great, thank you. I've been having some struggles with audio. Good day. Thank you, Thandeka, Imamaleng, and Patsy, and just to everyone who made today possible. I'm very honored to be able to add my voice to creating an equal future for everyone, especially in South Africa. I'm here today as the founder of Great Girls, as you heard from Thandeka. Our mission is to change the outcomes for young women in this country, outcomes that they are often made to feel are inevitable and that they cannot change. We work with young women in Cape Town from currently disadvantaged and desperately underserved areas, and we commit ourselves to their future. Everybody in Great Girls works completely free, volunteers their time, skills, and expertise to changing the outcomes for our girls. Some truths that mold how we do our work at Great Girls are embedded in our society. The education that these girls have access to in this country is insufficient. And I think on the whole, the schooling system, both locally in South Africa and globally, is a system that does not produce an immediately employable person. Think back, everyone on the call, to what you learned in school. We didn't learn about labor law or what it meant to sign an employment contract. We didn't even know what our employee rights were or what access to leave we were allowed. We didn't learn how to file our income taxes. And Patsy, I was listening to you talk about starting Partners for Sexual Health. We didn't even know how to start a business. We didn't know how to draw up a business plan or funding model, or even how to file our business on the CIPC or register for tax. We don't learn at school how to manage our money. We don't understand financial planning. We don't leave school being able to interview well or even know what workplace etiquette is. Young people aren't even taught how to correspond via email or over the phone in a professional manner, and they aren't even taught how to apply for jobs. So what does our education teach us? For us at Great Girls, this situation is unacceptable, and frankly, it contributes to the 52% youth unemployment rate that we are currently experiencing in this country. If you combine this with the fact that globally, South Africa has the worst female domestic burden figures. I'm going to put up a book and I'm happy to share it afterwards, but it's a book that I read as part of my master's thesis. And for me, the domestic burden in South Africa being the worst is at a factor of 8-to-1, meaning in layman's terms that for every 1 hour of domestic work, a husband or a man or a male figure in a household does, a woman does 8 times that much. This, with the unemployment rate, just told us at Great Girls that we needed women to be equipped to both get employed as well as stay meaningfully and gainfully employed. And those words are very important because having a job doesn't mean the same thing as being gainfully or meaningfully employed. People often ask me why I started Great Girls, and it's quite simple. I grew up in a home where my mother wasn't working due to very staunch patriarchy. When my parents split, she obviously had no way to find employment, was unemployable, and thus unable to support us. I then needed to work to fund my tertiary studies. And when it came to finding employment for myself, I literally had no idea how to even begin looking for a job, or how to apply, or what to do on our first day. These sorts of skills weren't legacy skills within my environment, and I had to turn to a wider network for advice and guidance. And because of my privilege, I had that access to the network for guidance and advice. What strikes me and what struck me then is the number of people, specifically young women in this country, who do not have access to a wider network for advice or guidance. Now, I want you all on the call to picture a situation in your minds for me. Picture a young woman walking into a university lecture theatre or a Technicon hall, or even her first job. She is met with a few overwhelming and fundamental facts in that space. She will be in the minority, and men will dominate that space. She will be paid less than the men, who are oftentimes equally or less competent than her. The few women that are there will be in competition for the few coveted spots, will be in competition for each other for a multitude of other reasons, and will make her experience a challenging and demotivating one. She will come up against queen bees and gatekeepers and male-nominated work industries for the rest of her life, and will make her journey a lot more difficult than it needs to be. In my story, and in so many stories out there, patriarchy is the fundamental disruptor. The world is structured, but not for women. Adding or removing a man, and I have to put a caveat here, I'm talking about a typical patriarchal cis male, for anyone who's unclear. Adding or removing a man from a family, in my case, became its success or its downfall. Adding or removing a man from a workplace I worked in, or a management position I reported into, had either a positive or a negative effect on my career. The society we find ourselves in, as women in South Africa, is rife with violence, fear, inequality, and consequently, severe limitations, all based on our gender and our identity. Women often don't have autonomy or control over their lives, and my fellow speakers have touched on that beautifully already. And this is for many reasons. But I just want to be clear on one thing. I love all humans and humanity, and this is not a man-bashing session. I have many, many amazing men in my life, and I respect them for what they have both helped me to do and helped me to learn. What I am advocating for in this talk is that women need to become their own disruptors, a new force for change, driving our own stories and outcomes, independent of external influences or gender identity and influence. For me, the change in the situation is simple, and that's where Great Girls comes from. We need to change the narrative, change the picture. We take high school students and we change their stories, and we change their possible outcomes. We work with grade 11 and 12 girls, and we sign them up for a 2.5-year program. They are taken through an intensive learning experience to address all of these things I've already mentioned, but here's some detail. We take them through CV writing, we take them through interview skills and techniques, and we even get them into a situation where they can practice these skills and techniques during mock interviews. We teach them workplace behavior, including employment do's and don'ts, and more importantly, how to communicate professionally in a workplace through various media. We teach them how to do some basic budgeting and financial planning, how to manage themselves and their money. We do an introduction to tax, namely income tax, but tax in general, so that they understand concepts like VAT and UIF and understanding what those things can help them do in the future. We introduce them to basic labor law and what some of their employment rights are through employment contracts. We teach them about personal branding and grooming, and we provide each girl with their own workplace appropriate outfit. We even take them through sexual and reproductive rights and health, which is obviously key to today's conversation. We help them understand what their further education options are beyond secondary school, explaining the difference through various study options. And we guide the girls to helping find their first job, entering the job market, or applying to a tertiary institution. But more than this learning, we also guide them to learn about themselves. And this for me is fundamental. Young women in this country do not often have the luxury or safe space to learn about themselves. Our girls are taken through individual personality assessments, and we help girls in building confidence through sharing their stories, learning public speaking skills, and through us creating the safe spaces that they so desperately need. Beyond a doubt, the most important feature of the success of our program at Great Girls is the mentorship relationship. It is the foundation of our girls' success. Patsy finished her talk by saying, "Get yourselves a mentor," and I couldn't support that more. Having access to someone who has walked the path before you, someone who not only cheers you on, guides you, and supports you, but somebody who holds you accountable to yourself, is the most critical success factor. At Great Girls, we have over 175 graduates in our program who range from our current matrics, good luck to them all, to the full-time employed woman aged approximately 17 to 26. And we add to that every year with another 50 girls. And with over 50 mentors and more volunteers and supporters, we continue to be our own disruptors in a broken system. Unintentionally, but unsurprisingly, our mentor network has also organically become a source of support and collaboration. It's a sisterhood of like-minded, driven women who are passionate about making the world a better place, not only for other women, but for ourselves. Now, I want you to take this time and do me a favor, picture another new scenario. After a disrupting force like our program and the many others that exist in South Africa and the world has been applied, imagine that same young woman you did earlier, who now not only knows how to apply for a job and is equipped to understand her employment rights and contracts and how to navigate her workplace, but more importantly knows how to manage herself, her money, and her outcomes, walks into that new job. She creates a sisterhood network in her workplace by living values of inclusivity and collaboration. She creates safe spaces for her female colleagues and paves the way for even more women like her in the workplace to come after her. She disrupts her intergenerational story of oppression, poverty, and inequality. She reinvests in her community through initiatives like ours and mentors other young women, paying it forward. Her children build on her success, using their available legacy skills to change their outcomes. She goes on to great things, positioning herself to change the landscape of her organization, where equal pay for equal work is a non-negotiable, and where women are given integral leadership roles, bringing empathy and balance to what was previously a male-dominated patriarchal work system. Now take that girl and multiply her into every workplace, every community, and every home, and into every woman. They say that when you educate a girl, you educate a nation. I can't imagine what a world like that would look like. I hope I see it one day. Thank you to Thandeka, Patsy, and Mamaleng for creating today, and thank you for giving me the platform to speak about my passion.
Thank you so much, Christina, and thank you for all the amazing work that you do at Great Girls. We cannot thank you enough, and I think the work that you do really embodies the motto of our voice, our equal future. And as we've listened to what Christina has to say today and what the rest of the speakers will say, let us remember that one success of one woman is the success of many. And as we continue to forge this path and to increase the amount of women in leadership, let us continue to observe the International Day of the Girl Child by raising those that come behind us upwards and onwards. Next up, our next speaker is Dr. Sanelisiwe Balfour. Unfortunately, Dr. Balfour could not be with us here today. However, she has sent a video in her presence. Fire. So currently, we're just experiencing some technical difficulties. We'll have the video uploaded shortly. In the moment, I would just like us to really think, the reason why we gathered here today is looking at the day of the International Day of the Girl Child. So this day focuses on a life where young women and girls are free from gender-based violence, HIV and AIDS. It also looks at learning new skills towards the future they choose and leading as a generation of activists that aim to accelerate social change. The struggle for gender equality in South Africa highlights the role that women have played in breaking stereotypes. South Africa has made strong commitments to furthering gender equality as long as women's rights. Numerous policies and frameworks have been adopted in an effort to bolster these activities. However, at times, life for young women in South Africa has been grim and life-altering. Young women and girls form a large part of the South African population, and it is up to us to empower and help create an enabling environment where we can actually help them achieve this success and help them grow. And in order to do so, the sexual and reproductive health and rights of these young women and girls needs to be linked to all developmental agendas and goals. In linking the sexual and reproductive health and rights to development agendas, gender equality is built alongside sustainable human development. Gender equality does not only foster an equal world, it is essential for the growth of communities and economies.
If anybody else has questions for our speakers, Patty, Christina, and Kainisa, please put the questions on the chat box or just simply raise your hand in the chat box and then we'll be able to attend to your questions.
Yes, Tandy?
Hello, hi.
Yes, okay. I have a comment for Christina, in fact. Christina, I think that's actually absolutely brilliant work that you're doing. And it just shows that we're doing such a lot of work and the one complement each other, and then it takes after this webinar for us to actually meet you and to realize how we can support a network, because it's as much as you're doing what you're doing, our work also complements what you're doing. So I think there's great opportunity to network and work together to achieve the ultimate goal, because I think, as you said, I mean, it's all about the young people, and rightfully what you're saying in terms of the skills that we're learning in school and the ones that they need to have and make them prepared and ready for work and experience. So I'm very excited. I'm very glad that we've met you. I will definitely give you a call so that we can actually see how we can work further together. So yeah. I'm not sure if anybody else is having any questions and so forth for us.
I would like to include a note by Helen Jack Patsy. This was posted while you were speaking, wherein Helen says, integration of gender transformation in teaching and learning content in our schools, colleges, and university curriculum from foundation level across all subjects, not just life orientation, that is also aimed at eliminating gender-based violence and sexual harassment in their all forms and manifestations is necessary. Helen then goes on to say that equal treatment and proper socialization of all children, both boys and girls, is another component that we need to assess. Looking at training and self-defense, as well as holding men accountable to the standards that society places on women. And that not to lower the standards that we have necessarily that are designed for men. This goes for everything else as well. Helen goes on to say, remember how harshly any woman is judged when she commits any crime? The same standards are to be applied to men. We are not looking for exceptional treatment, just equality. And in brackets, stop violence before it happens.
Good day, everyone. My name is Dr. Sanelisi Balfour. I hope everyone is well during these trying times and keeping safe. It's an honor to speak to all of you today, and I consider it a privilege to be able to share my story with you. Let me tell you a bit about myself. Basically, I'm a pediatric registrar working at Charlotte Maxeke Hospital in Johannesburg. A pediatric registrar is basically a medical doctor who's specializing in pediatrics. And I wanted to share my journey with all of you today as to how I've gotten here and gotten this far, and maybe touch a few of you so that you too can see that anything is really possible if you apply yourself. So growing up, I was quite a sickly child. I was always admitted to hospital. I considered doctors to be heroes for the mere fact that they cared for people in their most vulnerable state. But what I did see was that the doctors who treated me and treated all those around me didn't particularly look like me. So there were hardly any women and there were no black women. So it was difficult to see, and basically what it meant to me was, is it possible for someone like me to be able to be in that kind of position? So I basically wanted to challenge the status quo and push myself to try and be in that position so that kids could see me the way that I saw those doctors. So in high school, I told my science teacher I wanted to become a doctor. He told me that I wouldn't get into med school. So I found this to be a challenge, because basically a man was telling me as a young woman what I could and couldn't be, which I obviously didn't feel was right. So I took all the correct subjects, which was maths, biology, and science, and I applied to med school, and I got in. So it was quite a proud moment for me to go back to him and tell him that I was accepted into the best med school in South Africa. Basically, med school was difficult. It was 6 years of hard work, but basically I graduated in record time. It's quite a male-dominated field where in a lot of the different disciplines that you go through in order to train to be a doctor, men mention how women get pregnant and don't make good doctors because it's difficult to balance being a doctor and a mother. Which again I found as a challenge, which I wanted to take on. Med school was also difficult in the fact that, again, all of our lecturers and senior doctors who taught us didn't look anything like me. While there were 1 or 2 black females and females of color, the majority were elderly white males who basically taught us what it is to be a doctor and how it is to be a doctor. So I applied myself and I worked hard, but still had some fun because it's a balancing act. Med school is a very competitive field because, as you can imagine, the brightest minds from around the country and sometimes even around the continent all come together in one class trying to attain the same goal. So most of us made it, a few didn't. We got our degrees and we became doctors, and I must say it was the proudest moment of my life to walk across that stage and basically get my degree and to be called doctor. So after med school basically was internship, which proved to be quite difficult in that it was the first time we were working as doctors, and it was one of the few times in which we'd find ourselves in groups where you were the only female and there were quite a few men. There are quite a few disciplines also as a doctor which are very male dominated, such as surgery and orthopedic surgery. So it's difficult in these environments to try and prove yourself because people don't see you as a worthy component and basically see you as either someone who was trying to fill the status quo or as someone who benefited off of affirmative action in BEE. So proving ourselves proved very difficult, but we did it, and I did it. People naturally feel that men are better doctors than women for multiple different reasons. Firstly, because it's what they've seen regularly, whether it's on TV or in person, and also just for the mere fact that men don't get pregnant and have to leave the workplace. They're considered to be a bit more serious and more hardworking than women, which I feel is not true. Patients would also typically prefer to be treated and seen by male doctors. And I actually had an incident in which, as a senior doctor, after doing 6 years of med school and 4 years of practicing, I had a medical student with me who was a man, and the patient called him doctor and actually called me nurse. And that is something that we deal with regularly. It's extremely frustrating considering how hard you work to get to where you are, and the fact that I was more qualified than this person who they prefer to call doctor. But at the end of the day, you really only have to prove anything to yourself and not anyone else, because we are just as worthy of men as being called doctors as they are. I basically knew what the end goal was, and that didn't let it get me down. I'm now specializing in pediatrics. So pediatrics is basically the discipline that deals with sick children and the development and the health of children. I'm in my final year. I have a few more months to go until I'm a qualified pediatrician. I must say I'm quite proud of myself. So in total, it was 6 years of med school, and I've been practicing now as a doctor for 9 years. So that is 15 years. As scary as it sounds, and as if you're going to spend all your time at work, it's important and it's necessary to have a good balance. I think that women are better than this than men, and I think that as women we are way stronger than men, as we can be mothers, we can be wives, and we can still be professionals, and we can do it all. So don't let anyone get you down by telling you that as a woman you won't be a worthy component compared to your male colleagues and your peers. I think the fact that we can multitask and basically do it all at the same time proves that we are the fairer sex and we are the better sex. I feel the sky is the limit for us. So because of this, I'm currently going to super specialize, which means once I become a pediatrician, I'm going to go further and try and become a pediatric cardiologist, which is a pediatrician that deals with heart conditions. So little children who are born with heart conditions, I'm basically the one who takes care of them and manages them and treats them. I do believe that there's no such thing as a limit to education. I feel that as women, we can basically continually and continuously educate ourselves as far as we want to go, because, I mean, education enriches our minds and makes us better people. So I know it's not particularly for everyone, and this is my story and my journey, but the message I'm basically trying to get across is that don't let anyone tell you otherwise. As a woman, it's possible to do everything, and it's still possible to be a mother and a wife and to do everything perfectly, because I feel that as women, we're more able and we're more capable of doing this. Don't let any man tell you what you can and cannot do. Only you can tell yourself that, and you can be anything that you want to be, because it is possible. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you all and have a lovely day.
Thank you so much to Dr. Sanelisiwe Balfour for sending in her video. And we're coming to the end of our talk today, and so I'd like to thank all of our speakers for being here, for sharing such important lessons, insightful messages. Before we wrap up, I'd like to just share a few more important points that I wrote down after listening to everyone's talk, and I think it's all important messages that we can take away from today. First and foremost, education is key, information is key. Be bold, don't stand to the side. There is dignity in choice, and that we are not a homogenous group, we set our own path. Also, that helping others, having mentors, together we can get to the top. We can't always do it alone. So thank you to our speakers for showing that to us. Thank you to our speakers for helping us observe the International Day of the Girl Child. And we have a few more questions aimed at Christina before we wrap up. Christina, from Lucky, we have, how do we foster emotional and psychological resilience in girls? What is the most important thing we can all do today to empower the young women in our lives? And lastly, what do you feel is your purpose, and how do we know when we are living lives of purpose?
Thank you very much, Thandeka. And to Lucky, we've walked a long path. Thandeka, Lucky was one of the young DA leaders with me many moons ago. So thank you, Lucky, for your ongoing support. This idea, that Great Girls idea, was actually born out of Lucky and I collaborating. So it's really special that he's here with us today. So to answer the first question, how do we foster resilience? This is a question we've had to answer at Great Girls this year, specifically with COVID in our midst. So the one thing that we've been quite aware of is that mental health, and I'm sure you've all seen the stats, and if those of you who haven't watched The Social Dilemma, you should watch it, but the impact of social media on young people is, honestly, it's insane. And if you look at the suicide and depression rates, especially in young women, it's really worrying. And so the one thing we try and do, or the one thing we've tried to do, is a two-pronged approach. So the one is around educating people around their engagement on social media, both what they absorb and digest, but also with what they post. We do it more in the pitch of, future employers look at your social media platforms and ensure that what you're sharing is true to your values and who you are. But the other element we've really looked at is doing a lot of that work on yourself, to know what it is within yourself that you can rely on in times of darkness and in times of trouble. And during COVID, we set up a series of sort of self-work challenges and sort of exercises with our girls and the mentors, where we really ask the girls to sort of do some introspection and some reflection on what it is that they know they can rely on when everything else seems to be falling apart around them. Things like, are you an honest person? Are you a person who can be relied on in a stressful or an emergency situation? Are you kind? Are you accountable and reliable? Are you somebody who keeps your word? Are you honest? Do you have integrity? And really look at the things that you know to be true about yourself and work on those to strengthen them. But by the same vein, also look at what you're not particularly happy with and what you can start doing around improving those areas of yourself. And so, we can always talk about things like building empathy and building understanding. But at the end of the day, I think being able to rely on yourself is probably the most important key to resilience. And if anyone wants to talk about this further, I have a myriad of materials and all sorts of things we share with our girls in terms of building resilience internally. But I would also refer you to the Resilience Factory. There are a group of women who started an organization called the Resilience Factory, where they essentially do these things that I'm talking about, help you build the tools and the self-reliance. The last question, which is what is your passion and how do you find it? Because I forgot the second question, Thandeka, you might have to remind me. But I did a lot of work with a coach and through my mentorship group that we've created in determining what it is that my passion is. And it's taken me 10 years and a lot of pain and internal turmoil to get there. But at the end of the day, I think Patsy will be able to relate. I think Kanye will be able to relate. I think Sanalesi will be able to relate. People who find themselves at the service of others, their true passion is service to others. And I honestly believe my purpose on this earth, and it's quite deep, but I honestly believe my purpose on this earth is to serve others and to make the experience of those around me improved by every interaction. And if I come away from a situation and I haven't improved it or made it better, or haven't left somebody with a smile on their face, I have failed. And sometimes you've got to be cruel to be kind, and some of that is pushing people to be better and pushing them out of their comfort zones. But by pushing people to be better and improving themselves, their circumstance, their lives, their families, their employment, whatever it may be, leave your job might be my advice. And as long as it's in the pursuit of improving yourself and improving your outcomes, I'm that person, I'm that catalyst in your life. It can be very tiring, and Patsy will know you have to fill your own cup before you can fill others. But the reality is, if you honestly believe your passion and your purpose on earth is to improve the world, then do that. I don't know what you think, Thandeka, you were quick firing there.
Yes, the rest of the questions we will be posting on our Facebook page. If there are any last comments, please raise your hand and we'll come to you. Other than that, the rest of the questions we'll post live on our Facebook page and we'll continue the conversation over there. Any last questions, any last comments before we wrap up? Thank you.
I think I just need to say thank you to everybody that joined today's conversation. I think it's long overdue. I think we actually need to do this regularly, as much, because there's quite a lot of need out there. There's a need for mentorship. There's a need for leaders like us in our own space to guide our young people and give them direction and give them hope specifically. Sometimes people think that they will not be able to achieve it. And I think if they hear from stories like ours that yes, it is doable and it's achievable, I think it's important just for us to just give people hope and direction and support. And as you are saying, Christina, it is my lifelong passion to serve the people, specifically when it comes to the young people, because I'm keeping me mostly young. But yes, so yeah, I want to say thank you very much for everybody that joined today's conversation, and I'm so super excited that we've met now new partners, Christina, Caniso, everybody. This will not be the last that you're hearing from us. I think there's a lot of opportunities out there that we can actually work together. So I'm very much open for networking and partnering. That's what our name is, partners. Originally it means partnerships. So yeah, I'm opening for how we can make our lives and people's lives a much better space and place. So thank you from my side. Thank you. Ms. Tandy, where are you?
Hey, Kanye, do you have anything that you'd like to share with us, Kanye? Mavis, would you like to go ahead? Yes, Kanye.
So, it's really been refreshing just having this conversation, also hearing other people's stories of really being fully present in their own lives. I think that's probably one of the best things to be able to witness, and also to kind of understand where some of the work really lies. What Christina was talking about in terms of resourcing, mentally, emotionally, people who are going into the world with the things that they need, I think is really, really critical. The magazine that I put out last month, which is coming out this month again, really is also about some of the facts and figures that I was giving earlier on, really landing in a way that people understand, so that they're able to use information for them to be able to function better and really be present better in their own lives. Because sometimes information can be such a faraway place and seem so useless until it's simplified and begins to make sense to the person who receives it. So this is, for me, I agree with Patsy in saying perhaps there's space for more of this, so that people know that it's not, yes, it looks complex, but once you break it down, it's not as cumbersome and as complex as you imagine it to be.
Thank you so much, Kanyisa, for sharing that. We appreciate you having you here as well. And for those who want to know more about Kanyisa's magazine, please go and check her Facebook page or Instagram page, and then you can have a look and read her magazine on SRHR. Mavis, I think you still have your hand up. I'm not sure if you still want to comment or not. Okay. All right, I think that's about it, everybody. Thanks so much again, once again, for hi, Megan.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Hi, sorry, I had to unmute myself, but thank you anyway for the inspiration from all the speakers. What I wanted to bring up was our issue in Zimbabwe. We've got social media videos, explicit and sex texting from school children, and something where we need to deal with. And thank you. I think Christina touched on it. And I think also, is it Kanisa? Thank you for that. I'll keep in touch to get advice from you. Oh, thank you very much for today. Bye.
Thanks so much, Mavis, from that comment. I'm pretty sure Christina and Kanisa, you've got that. So guys, if you wanna speak or get in touch with our speakers or panel, please go to our Siagwazi Youth Network page or Partners in Sexual Health Facebook page, and on our LinkedIn as well. And then you can find out about our speakers as well. And their bios are also listed on our social media sites. So thank you once again for everybody for joining us. Once again, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thank you as well. Well done, team.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Good things.
Bye.
Well done.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.